Well, we'd love to hear from you this week on our topic, why do people blame God when things go wrong? You can write to us at listenuptv.com. Today we're looking deeper at the curious reality of people who go so far as to sue God when their world seems unfair and out of control. A #1 book on North American bestseller lists tackles the question of where is God when life hurts. Listen Up's Ricky Ratliff caught up with Paul Young, its author.
In your book, Mac talks about war and murder, and he says to God, "You may not cause those things, but you certainly don't stop them." I think we've all asked this. Why does God allow bad things to happen?
Ah, boy. That's really a question that's at the heart of this entire book. And to have a pithy little answer is not that easy. People have asked me, why did you pick this scenario? And it's because the love of a parent for their child is as close to the heart of God as anybody can get to understand what that kind of love is like. It's still just a reflection, but it is close. And the deepest kind of pain raises the deepest kinds of questions.
In Paul's New York Times bestseller, The Shack, Mackenzie the character asks God the hard questions for real pain.
Our freedom to accuse and blame and all those things is part of how God respects us, to give us that right. But He doesn't take it like a human being does. He's different than us. He doesn't take it personally. Our blame of God comes from a very basic misunderstanding or a belief in a lie. And when you deal with the issue of God, the issue is His character. That's what's the fundamental issue. What is this God like? Is He good, and is He involved? And that's the question that's at the heart. You know, there's a little conversation where Papa finally says to Mac, you don't even believe I'm good. And Mac says, finally, he acknowledges that that's true. And he says, I don't know how to get from here to there. And Papa says, well, you can't. But together we can.
For Listen Up TV, I'm Ricky Ratliff.
As pastor of the People's Church, one of Toronto's largest congregations, author and theologian Charles Price has dedicated much time to thinking about the issues and implications of how we interpret pain. I spoke with Charles recently in Cambodia about the complex relationship we have with God in times of suffering. Charles, tell us your reaction to the idea of somebody suing God for what's wrong in the world.
Yeah, that was an interesting case. And of course, if it was a serious thing, there's some assumptions behind that need challenging. The basic assumption being that everything that happens is God's responsibility. In other words, that God has created a universe which He sovereignly controls, and every detail is His responsibility. And I think the Bible challenges that significantly, because what's wrong with the world is not God, but people. And the reason is that when God created, according to the book of Genesis, and this therefore is the Christian understanding of this, He gave to human beings dominion over the earth. And in the exercise of that dominion, we can keep God out or we can bring God in.
Do you think He should have sued the devil? If you want to be serious about what's wrong in the world, should He have sued the devil?
The devil is a created being. God is not created. So they're not two equals, a good and bad, fighting either side, and God sort of has the edge. We have a very interesting story in the book of, in the Old Testament, the book of Job. And Job was the prosperous, well-respected man for whom everything suddenly goes wrong. So suddenly Job woke up to discover his loss of his business, his livestock, most of his servants, his own children died in a house that collapsed on them. And it says that at the end of it, when all this had gone wrong, he fell on his face in worship and said, naked I came from my mother's womb, naked I'll depart. The Lord gave, the Lord has taken away. And it says, in this Job did not sin. And so then next chapter, Satan soared up to heaven again. How you going with Job? Well, you knew that when you told me I could touch anything except his body, that he really only cared about his own physical body. If he wasn't in pain, he could cope. And God said, all right, touch his body. Don't take his life. You can touch his body.
And it goes on increasingly worse. He touches his children.
Yes.
Am I powerless in the cosmic battle between what's going on with Satan and God? Like what went on with Job? Am I powerless with that cosmic battle between Satan and God?
Well, it depends what you mean by powerless. Job didn't and couldn't stop the events that happened to him because those were decided outside of himself. But where Job had power and the ability to do what was right as opposed to what was wrong was in how he responded to that and his unflinching trust in God during the horrendous things that happened to him. I mean, it is true that bad things happen to good people.
So where does God stand on that?
Yeah, there aren't simplistic answers to these questions, and philosophers and theologians have wrestled with these, and to find a little simple answer is not easy, probably it's not possible. But I think if we stand back and look at the big picture, when God created the world and all that's in it, he defined it as being good. That word repeats in Genesis. God saw all he had made, it was good, and then it was very good. But he gave to human beings the ability to choose. He said that they were to rule over the earth, they were to have dominion over the earth, they were to subdue the earth. These words are used in the book of Genesis.
And that is ultimately the thought that Charles wants to leave with us, that it is the free will of man, not God's will, that creates evil in the world. And perhaps the first step in trying to rid evil in the world is for man to make himself, not God, responsible for it.
There's not a situation where you stand back and somehow these bad things, these evil things are happening, unless, of course, you talk about the effects of nature, such as flooding, drought, tsunamis.
Acts which insurance companies would call acts of God, which leads people to a confused state in blaming God. When we come back, more of our interview with Charles Price and the nature of good, evil, and our responsibility for the reality in the world.
Closed captioning provided by Duca Financial Services Credit Union. Discover more affordable banking at duca.com.
We love getting your calls, voicemails, emails, video clips, and letters. Pop by our website and answer this week's question. Why do you think so many people blame God when things go wrong in the world? You'll find all our contact information at listenuptv.com. Suffering is part of who we are. Just like you can't have right without wrong, so too does hurting come with being human. We continue my conversation with noted author and theologian Charles Price to hear his thoughts on how to make sense of our pain. Systemic evil, Charles. Does that have its origins in the devil? What's my role in that? What's God's role in that?
Well, our role is to fight that which is evil. I mean, evil is a moral word, so it's not just, you know, if an avalanche takes place in a mountain, you know, that's not in itself evil. It's not a moral issue that's taken place. The avalanche has taken place, the rocks have fallen, somebody got squashed by them. That is a tragic accident. But if you're talking about things that are, by definition, evil, we're talking about something that is morally wrong and corrupt. And our job, of course, is to work as God has declared the potential to do so, to bring about that which is good in its place. And so much of what's going on in our world is corrupted by human evil, and we are born in a state of separation from God. Therefore, our natural bias is towards our self-interest, and becoming a Christian, being restored into a relationship with God, is designed to correct that and create love and the self-interest takes a second place. Now, that's a process that God has to work on all of our lives because it's not automatic.